agencies expect and how they design the setup is where most offshore models quietly fail. In the last video, I spoke about the blueprint most agencies follow when they look at offshore support and why the blueprint quietly creates friction over time. In this video, I want to talk about one layer deeper because when offshore setups don't work, agencies usually land on the same explanations. The quality wasn't consistent, it took so much time to manage, communication became difficult. Now, these explanations aren't wrong, but they're not the real reason things break down. To understand why offshore fails so often inside agencies, we first need to look at what really gets blamed and why. Why the cost gets blamed? Well, cost is an easy target. It's visible. It's measurable. When something doesn't feel right operationally, cost becomes the simplest explanation. But cost doesn't design behavior. Expectations do. Once you stop looking at offshore as a cost decision, the real issue starts to come into focus. It's the expectation gap. Most agencies expect offshore support to operate with judgment, initiative, and context, while treating them as external executors. This contradiction creates tension. You can't expect ownership without integration, and you can't expect initiative without clarity. This gap between what agencies expect and how they design the setup is where most offshore models quietly fail. Once you see that gap clearly, the failure points start feeling random. They become predictable. Now, here are three structural failure points. Task-led design. Now, work is defined by activity rather than the outcome. Things get done, but nothing is truly owned. When problems appear, responsibility flows back directly to the founder. And that leads directly to the second issue. Founders step back too early, not because they shouldn't delegate, but because leadership was never properly transferred. Leadership doesn't disappear, it becomes invisible. And when leadership becomes unclear, something else starts to break down. No operating rhythm, no shared cadence, no feedback loops, no consistent definition of good. So when the pressure hits, distance becomes the excuse. And at this point, it's important to pause. Because this is where many agency owners quietly blame themselves. If you ever tried this before and it didn't work, it doesn't mean offshore is flawed. It usually means the agency never shifted how it operates. And that's actually good news because it means the problem is designable. So the obvious next question becomes, what does a setup that actually works look like? Well, that's exactly what I'll walk through in my next video. Thanks for tuning into the Recruitment Curry podcast. This is Ketan Gajjar signing off. Keep growing, keep thriving, and carry on.